Welcome to Movies in the Making. In today's episode, we are going to be looking at the 2003 martial arts film Kill Bill, Volume 1, originally released by Miramax and directed by Quentin Tarantino. Here, we will dive deep into the story of the production of this film. This is only the first film of a two-part picture that had to be divided for fear of running too long. That fact alone is just far from enough to explain how even the first part was made. If you would like to hear about how more films were done behind the scenes, please like down below and subscribe to this channel for more videos. Now, sit back and enjoy the show. You are all in for a kick-ass ride. Quentin Tarantino came up with the idea for Kill Bill while working on Pulp Fiction, Miramax, 1994, during conversations with Uma Thurman on set. Inspired by the fictional Fox Force 5 TV pilot her character Mia Wallace mentions in Pulp Fiction, Tarantino envisioned a revenge-driven exploitation film starring Thurman as the deadliest woman in the world. The idea took shape one night after filming when they brainstormed scenes, including Thurman's suggestion that her character be introduced bloodied in a bridal gown, which became the origin of The Bride. Tarantino wrote the first pages of Kill Bill in 1994, but production did not begin until nearly a decade later, as he initially paused work on Inglourious Basterds, The Weinstein Company, 2009, to develop the film. Uma Thurman's pregnancy had a significant impact on the production of Kill Bill, as Tarantino had envisioned her as the heart of his genre-blending revenge epic but refused to replace her despite the delay. When faced with the choice of recasting or waiting, Tarantino did not hesitate. He saw Thurman as not just the star of his samurai, spaghetti western, and comic book-inspired film, but as his Marlene Dietrich to a personal Joseph von Sternberg-style project. For him, Kill Bill was more than just a stylized action film. It was a passion project built around his creative bond with Thurman, and waiting for it to give birth was a decision that he saw as essential to preserving the spirit and integrity of the film. Many actors were considered for the role of Bill. Initially, Tarantino approached Warren Beatty for the part, believing he could bring something compelling to the character. However, as Tarantino continued developing the script, the role of Bill evolved into something he felt was better suited for David Carradine, who he believed truly understood the character's essence. The scope of the role even expanded more than originally expected. Rather than appearing briefly near the end as first imagined, Bill became a presence throughout both volumes of the film. The time commitment and intense martial arts training required also contributed to Beatty stepping away, leading Tarantino to shape the character around Carradine instead. The film was partially born out of Tarantino's deep-rooted love for cinema, particularly the films he discovered while working in the video store during the 80s and 90s. The film is a wild, genre-blending revenge tale that draws heavily from American and European cinema, including spaghetti westerns by Sergio Leone, whose own influences trace back to Japanese filmmaker Akira Kurosawa. Ennio Morricone's iconic soundtracks, sweeping desert landscapes, and stylized character confrontations are all echoed throughout Kill Bill. Other inspirations include The Bride Wore Black, Les Artistes Associés, 1968, which features a woman seeking revenge in a wedding dress, clearly a thematic ancestor to The Bride, and the stylized lone hero tropes of blaxploitation films like Foxy Brown, American International Pictures, 1979, which also borrow visual and thematic elements from both samurai and kabuki traditions. However, the heart of Kill Bill Volume 1 lies in its homage to Asian cinema, notably Japanese and Chinese martial arts films. The crazy 88 showdown in the House of Blue Leaves reflects the elaborate, high-energy combat scenes from classics like Five Deadly Venoms and the 36th Chamber of Shaolin, both Shaw Brothers Studio, 1978. The film also features stylistic nods to Seiji Suzuki's colorful and surreal Yakuza films, Tokyo Drifter, Nikatsu, 1966, and Branded to Kill, also Nikatsu, this time 1967. Most significantly, Kill Bill takes clear narrative and visual cues from Lady Snowblood, Toho, 1973, whose story of a female assassin avenging her family mirrors that of The Bride, right down to the Snowy Garden duel and the use of the song, The Flower of Carnage. Rather than simply borrowing plots, Tarantino stitches together characters, aesthetics, and action choreography from decades of Asian cinema to build a uniquely stylized world that functions as both tribute and transformation. Lucy Liu landed the role of O-Ren Ishii in the film after Tarantino specifically cast her, intrigued by her previous action roles but eager to tap a more layered, darker character. Liu had experience with physical roles in films like Charlie's Angels, Columbia Pictures, 2000. Ren was her first time fully embracing a villain. Tarantino crafted Ren as one of the most prominent and complex figures in the film, complete with a stylized anime backstory that explored her traumatic past and rise to power as the leader of the Yakuza. Liu appreciated the visual storytelling of the animated sequence and worked closely with Tarantino to understand her character's evolution, even advocating for Ren to speak Japanese to preserve cultural authenticity and depth. She trained extensively for her fight scenes, adapting to the physical demands of the swordplay in a traditional kimono during grueling shoots in intense heat. In portraying Ren, Liu emphasized not just the character's strength, but her resilience and survival instinct. She saw Ren as a woman shaped by pain and tragedy, fighting her way through life ever since witnessing her parents' brutal murder. Her final duel with the bride is presented with deliberate ceremony and quiet intensity, set in a snow-covered garden where every move is located with meaning. Liu highlighted the respect embedded in the scene, noting how the two characters, despite their violent paths, shared a kind of mutual honor. Ren's death at the hands of a Hattori Hanzo sword was not just dramatic, it was poetic justice. For Liu, the fight scene was not just about being the toughest, but about portraying a warrior who lived and ultimately died with dignity. Tarantino personally enlisted Japanese studio Production IG to create the animated sequence. This segment, which runs about 15 minutes, vividly depicts Ren's tragic backstory using stylized Japanese anime visuals. Tarantino saw Kill Bill as a mashup of the grindhouse films he had loved for decades, each chapter channeling a specific cinematic style. The animated sequence mixed Yakuza film themes with a spaghetti western score and reflected his unique vision, not just a tribute to genre films, but a celebration of their emotional depth and rebellious energy. Through this medium, the studio added a new layer of intensity and artistry for Ren's origin, contributing to the film's larger narrative and stylistic tapestry. Daryl Hannah was cast as the ruthless Elle driver in the film after Tarantino saw her perform in a play in London. He surprised her backstage, revealing he was writing a role specifically for her as the bride's nemesis. Although it took months before she saw the full script, Hannah was thrilled from the start, being a longtime fan of Tarantino's work. To prepare for the role, she was immersed in a massive library of genre films provided by Tarantino, including spaghetti westerns, kung fu classics, and obscure thrillers like Twisted Nerve, British Lion Films, 1968, from which Elle's eerie whistling tune originates. Hannah was so committed to the production that she even stayed on as a crew member after filming her scenes, eager to learn more from Tarantino and his crew as she aspired to become a filmmaker herself. Portraying Elle was a significant shift for Hannah, as it was the first time she played a character with no redeeming qualities. Unlike the other Deadly Viper Assassin Squad members, Elle lacked any tragic backstory or vulnerability. Hannah embraced the physical demands of the role, undergoing intense training in kung fu and samurai sword fighting with the legendary Sonny Chiba and Yuen Wu-ping's team. She also adapted to the challenge of performing with an eye patch, which affected her depth perception and balance. Her appreciation for the samurai sword's ceremonial significance added authenticity to her performance. Although Elle's role in Volume 1 is brief, her chilling presence hints at the chaos to come, and Hannah teased that viewers will despise her character even more in the sequel. Tarantino made sure that the cast was well versed in the many film genres and influences that inspired the project. To prepare them, he frequently hosted double feature screenings at his home for both cast and crew. Hannah recalled asking for research materials and being overwhelmed by the response. She received around 75 tapes along with boxes of additional films, even delivered by a moving truck. The collection included Japanese anime, kung fu films, and classic spaghetti westerns like Fistful of Dollars, United Artists 1964, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, also United Artists, this time 1966, reflecting the wide range of cinematic styles Tarantino drew from. Much of Kill Bill Volume 1 was filmed across various Southern California locations, with its most iconic site being the Sanctuary Adventist Church in High Vista, an isolated desert town in northern Los Angeles County. This remote chapel served as the Two Pines Wedding Chapel, where the film's infamous massacre scene unfolds. Though originally constructed in the 1930s as a community hall, the church had seen limited screen use before Tarantino's team discovered it. Location scout Kyle Snappy Oliver stumbled upon the building while searching the desert for a crossroads church, and production designer David Wasco's team transformed the drab interior into the cinematic chapel scene in the film. At the time, Oscar Castaneda, a pastor and technician, had recently purchased the building without knowledge of its Hollywood ties. Though initially hesitant about its violent on-screen legacy, Castaneda has since embraced its fame, even welcoming tourists from around the world, many of whom receive a religious tract with a stamp reading "The Kill Bill Church." The film also features scenes filmed in and around Los Angeles, with many local spots doubling for locations in Tokyo and El Paso. Vernita Green's suburban home was filmed in the El Sereno neighborhood, in a Caltrans-owned property rented under California's STAR program. Pasadena's historical St. Luke's Medical Center appeared as the El Paso Hospital, while the 2nd Street Tunnel in downtown LA and the Union Station surrounding area were used to recreate Tokyo scenes. Other sequences were shot under the 105 freeway and in the Sepulveda Tunnel at LAX to mimic Japan's cityscapes. While Tokyo's Rainbow Bridge and Shinjuku briefly appear in exterior shots, many scenes were intended to be filmed in Japan were just recreated in Los Angeles due to strict local filming restrictions. With its creatively chosen and dressed locations, the film blends global aesthetics into a uniquely Californian cinematic tapestry, all curated to reflect the film's extreme stylization and Tarantino's deep love for real, character-driven places. Production of Kill Bill lasts around 155 days, largely due to the high complex Crazy 88 fight sequence in Volume 1, which alone took 2 months to film. The climactic scene, where the bride battles Ren Ishii and her gang of 88 Yakuza, required extensive fight choreography and intricate camera work, making it as time-consuming as typically shooting an entire feature film on its own. Approximately $60,000 of both films' total $60 million budget was dedicated solely to source and related accessories, accounting for about 0.1% of the film's overall production costs. This significant investment likely contributed to both practical use and set decoration, particularly for the scenes set in the workshop of the legendary swordsmith Hattori Hanzo, portrayed by Chiba, an actor whose past work Tarantino notably admired and referenced in earlier projects. Tarantino's dedication to practical effects meant that he steered clear of CGI blood, favoring the visceral, old-school style of violence found in the grindhouse and kung fu films he grew up loving. To achieve this authentic look, the team got creative with their techniques. In some scenes, they even used Chinese condoms filled with fake blood to create explosive splatter effects. This low-tech approach delivered exactly the dramatic impact Tarantino was aiming for. Thurman faced multiple traumatic experiences linked to Harvey Weinstein, the film's executive producer and co-founder of Miramax. She revealed that Weinstein had sexually assaulted her years earlier in his London hotel suite, after luring her into a series of increasingly manipulative and coercive encounters. Thurman later shared that her betrayal she experienced, both from Weinstein's abuse and from being treated like a broken tool after the accidents I will mention, deeply impacted her perception of power, trust, and the glamorized violence often embedded in the film industry. The score excerpt, Battle Without Honor or Humanity, composed by Japanese guitarist Tomoyasu Hote for the Japanese film New Battles Without Honor and Humanity, Toei, 2000, rose to international prominence after Tarantino used it in Kill Bill Volume 1. Tarantino selected the track to underscore the dramatic entrance of a Ren and the Crazy 88 at the House of Blue Leaves. The song's driving rhythm and stylish flair perfectly matched the scene's dynamic visuals, echoing the iconic slow-motion walk from Reservoir Dogs. Miramax, 1992, but with a heightened sense of spectacle. Tarantino's knack for repurposing obscure cultural elements and turning them into iconic pop culture moments helped launch the song into mainstream recognition, where it has since been used in numerous other films and trailers, further cementing its association with bold, high-energy cinematic moments. As of the 18th of April 2025, Kill Bill Volume 1 has an 85% critics rating on Rotten Tomatoes, a 69 out of 100 critics score on Metacritic, an 8.2 rating on IMDb, and a 4.2 rating on Letterboxd. The film's budget was $30 million and it grossed about $180 million following its initial release date of the 9th of October 2003. And that wraps up our deep dive into the making of Kill Bill Volume 1. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to stay updated on all things movies in the making. Let us know in the comments what you think of Kill Bill Volume 1, or if you have any favorite moments for that film we did not touch upon, or what films you would like to hear covered by this channel. Also be sure to check out our community page, where we announce what films will be talked about by this channel each week. New posts arrive every Friday. or Saturday if we forget to post on Friday. Thanks for watching, we'll see you all next time on Movies in the Making, where we will be talking about Kill Bill Volume 2, Miramax 2004, and more films to follow along the way. Tune in for more Movies in the Making as we uncover the stories behind cinema's most unforgettable films. This has been Jason Scotchmer, film enthusiast and passionate about the arts.